ready to roll. Okay, welcome everybody. This is a webinar hosted in collaboration with community engagement and sustainability. So my name is Tania Gerard. I am your host tonight. I am a community engagement coordinator for districts 4 and 5. And our job is to create opportunities for the residents to engage with the city. We provide you with information, with education, and in general with anything that you need to make your life in Mesa a better life. Before introducing the rest of the panelists and presenters today, I would like to go through a quick housekeeping. Okay, so first of all, welcome, thank you. We promise this webinar will finish at 7, and that's what it's going to happen. So we will be presenting for about 35 minutes, and then we will have the opportunity to hopefully address all of your questions. Those questions, you can be adding them to the Q&A window that you found in your lower tool, in the toolbox there. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted because I'm getting a message here. Okay, so the Q&A at the end, please listen to the presentation. Becky has prepared an amazing presentation and I am sure that most of your questions will be answered, but if they're not, at the end we will have more than enough time to address them. And I think that is all for the housekeeping right now. So Cynthia, Alicia, I invite you to come on screen. I will introduce you, first of all, to the rest of the community engagement team. So we have Cynthia Skura there. She is our community engagement coordinator for districts 2 and 3, and our new community engagement supervisor. We have Alicia Gutierrez for districts 1 and 6. And we have Becky Zuzi, who's a conservation coordinator, and she's going to be our subject matter expert tonight.
Thank you very much, Tanya. So like Tanya said, I am Becky Zusi, and I'm here to talk with you all about HOAs and a guide to saving some water and money. We've got lots of good things to discuss today. I am a water conservation coordinator for the city and have been working with HOAs for over 20 years. My standard joke is that I started when I was 9. Thank you. Cue laughter from audience. So I wanted to just get some ideas out there. And like Tanya said, we're going to answer questions at the end. Hopefully this presentation answers most of your questions. And our website is going to be a fabulous resource for everyone. And would someone let me know if you don't see the right slide? I'm changing slides now. Did that work? No. We'll try again. Uh-oh. There we go. We have a new slide. So I just wanted to start by telling you guys some information about water sources. We get a lot of questions in water conservation, and interestingly enough, I'm not the person who organizes our water needs. We have a fantastic team here at the city that makes sure that we have enough water and that we serve water that is of a quality to our customers in our water resources department. But I wanted to talk about this because this comes up a lot and it's been in the news a lot. We do have a varied variety of sources of water. CAP is the Central Arizona Project. So when you hear about the Colorado River, that's the CAP is how we get it delivered to Mesa and to other places, of course, in the area. But that's about a little more than half of our water. SRP is Salt River Project. They provide water through the Salt and Verde rivers, and that's more than a third, much more than a third of our water. And then the wells would be groundwater. And I just wanted to give you a very brief background on that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about it. But if you have questions about that, that's going to send you, we're going to send you to the water page, which again, all of these links are going to be in your follow-up email. But speaking of water and who's paying attention? Well, everyone here is paying attention. We do have a water shortage management plan. You might have heard of this. You've heard of other cities. Some cities call it a drought plan. We call it a water shortage management plan because a shortage could happen for a variety of reasons. It could be an infrastructure issue or some kind of a chemical situation. We haven't experienced those, but we wanted to be prepared. So we like to be a little more thorough about it. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what that water shortage management plan is. So there are 4 stages outlined within that plan of shortage. They are not directly related to the Colorado River, which is what you hear about on the news, but they are related to the Colorado River. And here's where things get a little bit weird. The Colorado River, you'll hear terms such as tier 2A, tier 1. What tier are we in? Those are related to some situations of the water levels on the system of the Colorado River. You hear about Lake Mead, those sorts of things. We call them stages. So there's some different terminology, and we're not directly tied, but we are working with the Colorado River. But you saw we have multiple sources of water. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. You might have heard that the Colorado River is in a tier 2A, which is, it's a shortage, and we're going down. They're going down to tier 1. That's all regulated by the federal government. I just wanted to let you know that, of course, we're paying attention to that, but it's part of our program. The city council is responsible for the declaration of the stages after stage 1. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but I don't decide it, but our city council decides it with a lot of input from staff, from the public, all sorts of input. The measures that are taken in each stage do become more stringent as the stages advance. So when you get to stage 3, it's going to be a little more restrictive. It's going to be a little more serious. This document is all available online. Please check it out. If you have questions, you can check that out. I'm going to mention a little bit more about it. You may have heard that in May of 2022, the city did enact our stage 1 shortage of that water shortage management plan. That one we call the water watch. So for that, it's all voluntary measures. So I know there's been some confusion about that, but it's all voluntary, except at the city where we're telling ourselves, hey, on our own facilities, we need to make sure that we're paying attention and reducing. Not that we weren't paying attention before, because believe me, we are always paying attention, but it's just a reminder of we have reduction goals. And then we also wanted to educate our public a lot more. We are always educating about water conservation, but drought is a little bit different. Water conservation is a way of life. Drought is a specific situation. And yes, we have been in a drought for many, many years, but we want to help people understand how they can make a difference and how we're paying attention to things. I just wanted to kind of highlight that, and we can discuss those things a little bit more later on, or I can send you to some other experts too. I wanted to bring this up as an example of one of the voluntary things that directly impacts HOAs. Hopefully, most of you, if not all of you, received an email from our conservation group that said, we'd really like you to consider either foregoing completely or maybe limiting your overseeding. And overseeding is that practice of putting seed on top of Bermuda grass so that you have that green winter lawn. It's a very water intensive process. And as you see on the screen, if you have 1,000 square feet in the annual process of putting that overseeding on, you're going to use 8,000 additional gallons. So most places don't just have 1,000 square feet as an HOA, they have a larger area. I would point out we do always encourage not just HOAs. I didn't mean to make it seem like it was just HOAs. It's certainly all residents and all communities, all businesses. But we did specifically sent an email to HOAs. And again, hopefully you saw that. And if you didn't, don't worry. We have some ways to make sure you stay engaged with us. But that's an example of a voluntary option for participating. Uh-oh, it's poll time. I should have warned you. It's time for a poll. We're going to have you guys answer a question, and you're going to see it hopefully pop up on your screen. But you can see my screen. So this is the question you're going to have to answer. So I can go ahead and read it to you. What desert do you think we live in? Is it A, the Arizona desert, B, the Chihuahuan desert, C, the Mojave desert, or D, the Sonoran desert? There it is. We'll give you guys a minute to answer. And yes, there's only one answer. give you a second. You tell me when we're done voting. Are we done voting? Okay. Yes, end the poll. Show the results. Let's see how everybody did. Oh, yeah, nice. Okay, we've got a crowd that's heard some things. Yes, we are in the Sonoran Desert, and that is important because we have very specific conditions here in the Sonoran Desert. Part of the reason we live here is because we want to be in the Sonoran Desert because it's absolutely gorgeous, it's unique, and it has very specific water levels and plant lives and all sorts of good stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit about plants later, of course. Can't go without plants. Okay, I definitely wanted to jump in now and talk to you about water conservation programs that the city offers. I'm going to mostly highlight things that are for commercial businesses, HOAs. We consider HOA a non-residential. I know that sounds a little weird because you're composed of residents, but it is considered almost a business, a commercial customer. And so I'm going to point out things that are both offered for your HOA as an entity, but also things that if you have a newsletter, if you have a Facebook page, if you have those sorts of things where you do advertise to your residents and you need an article about something, you need to let them know about some of our programs, I would love to have you share that information to your residents who are also our residents. I wanted to talk a little bit about the plant selection because I just told you we live in the Sonoran Desert, and obviously if you guys are from anywhere else in the US, you know that you can't plant certain kinds of things here and just have magical success. So we talk a whole lot about plant selection, and I just wanted to show you some of the tools that we do offer. You've probably seen that middle book. Hopefully you've seen it. We call it the pink book sometimes. A lot of people have gotten it. We work on these things regionally. This isn't a Mesa specific thing. This is for our region, where we do help people select plants. These are the same plants that can work in your HOA, that can work at your home, that can work in a retention basin. They all work because they are designed to thrive in the desert and to use less water than other plants. So I just wanted you to know that there's books, there's online sources, there's Water Use It Wisely. You'll see that in the corner. Again, all of these links will be provided to you in a follow-up email. I wanted to just really quickly point out that the state does have a list of plants and that are allowed in this area, and we work off of that list whenever we show you what kind of plants make sense. This is expert reviewed. These are plants that the city is allowed to put in certain places because they are expected to use less water. So we promote those plants to you all. I wanted to show you guys, in case you hadn't heard about it, I've gotten some questions from some folks when it does come to plants. Oh, are we supposed to get rid of plants? Absolutely not. Plants right now are of a huge importance. We have a program that Mayor Giles started in, I believe it was February, where it is 1 million trees to be planted by 2050. Trees are cool. The idea is that we need to promote a cooler environment. We, of course, are promoting low water use trees, and we really want to get people on board with creating shade and helping to mitigate heat. That's a big deal. So we are definitely promoting trees. And I've had some people question, hey, but you just said that we're in stage 1. Yes, but plants are critical to our quality of life, and we want to promote all of those benefits and use water wisely. So we're going to help you figure out how to water them properly and how to choose the right ones to make it make sense. So on that, I just mentioned about watering, and hopefully most of you have heard the word xeriscape, and I'm going to assume that you've heard it, but if you haven't, just a quick reminder, xeriscape is basically nature's choice of landscaping. It's using the environment that we live in and making sense with plants, with the right choices, planting things properly, watering properly, designing properly. So we have some resources for that as well. Again, these are available to you as an HOA, and they're available to you as a resident. You'll see the books that I've listed online, as well as we have some hard copies that you can order. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about those 2 logos on the right. That's Smartscape and Sustainable Landscape Management. I'm going to jump in a minute, But those are some programs that are offered to help landscapers, which we might have a few landscapers on this call. And if so, thank you for being here and welcome. Smartscape is a program that all of the Valley communities work with together, and it's to educate our landscapers and to make sure that they understand desert plants and how to plant desert plants. The Sustainable Landscape Management is another program that's offered outside of the cities, but another great program that can help landscapers understand the right and proper ways to water and to plant. I'm going to make a note that as a city, we are not allowed to give you a list that says, yes, you should call Becky's landscaping company, because we can't do that as a government agency. However, we do support Smartscape, and we will send you to the Smartscape website and say, these are people or companies that have been certified by Smartscape. You're welcome to contact them, but we cannot provide specific examples. So just throwing that out there. Speaking of, now, like I said, I've been working since I was 9 years old doing this, and choosing a landscaper is a huge deal for an HOA. This is your big partner. This is who you work with. This is your big budget ticket item. If you're like most HOAs that I talk to, it's usually the number one item is landscaping and watering for your common areas. That's your biggest expense in a year. So we have a few things on our website. Like I said, I can't tell you which one to call, but we do have some resources that help you on how do I hire a landscape contractor? What are these titles and who should I be looking for? And how do I do that? We have some sources for you, and I'll show you a little later. We even have a sample landscape contract, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit. But I wanted you to know that this is a big deal. Your landscaper should be your partner, should be someone that you work with in conjunction to make that community look amazing, make it cost effective, all of those things. This is somebody that's going to be very important, and you already know that probably, but it's just such a huge relationship. So I just want to emphasize that. And I apologize to everyone if I'm talking too fast, but I get really excited. Okay, this is a good one. All right, here we go. Let's get into this. So speaking of landscapers, water budgets and water use calculators. You'll see I have two on here. I'm going to start with the one on the right, the Know Your H2O water calculator. That's for residents. That's for your home, where you can say, hey, I have 3 people living in my home, and we have, about 3 loads of dishes a week. And there's questions that you can go through, and it will tell you month by month, with what you've told me, that's probably the amount of water you should be using. And then you could look at your usage and say, hey, am I on track? Am I on target? Yes or no? And then it'll send you to some tips as well. And so hopefully that's helpful. Again, please promote that to your residents. We're always promoting it, but we could use your help in that. But we're here today to talk a little bit more about the budget on the left. And when I say a budget, by the way, I should have explained this. A water budget is in gallons. But obviously, I understand that you all are dealing with bills. So we also put in some approximate water costs. Let me tell you what this is, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it in a minute. But the water calculator for your landscape is based on the size of your landscape in your common area that you are responsible for. How much grass am I watering? I being the HOA. How much desert area am I watering? This uses factors. This is a historical average of the weather. I don't know if you all have heard of evapotranspiration. We're not going to get into those kinds of details right now, but the idea is that we're taking in the needs of plants and how much do those kinds of plants need. We've really pared it down to grass and desert. But this is something to get you on the right track, because if you're like most HOAs that I talk to, it's coming up on budget season and we say, should we just add 5%? The city seems to raise their rates a lot. I don't know. What did we use last year? And what we're saying is there's a better way. You can start with, what should we be using? How do we get to what we should be using? And let's talk about that a little bit before we just say, let's add 5%. So this is a very bare bones version of it, but this is on our website. And if you work with your landscaper, say, hey, how much square footage do we have? And they might not have an exact number, but it's sure going to get you at least in a ballpark. We used to have, a thing that says, if your target's here, if you're out here, let's at least get you to here to get you to step 1. So I know that's a lot to take in. I'm going to keep talking about it though. This is a little bit more of a detail. If we happen to work together, this example that you see on the left is actual usage that was at this property versus budgeted usage, which is, you could consider budgeted use as recommended usage. So you'll see in the red is what they actually used, and the blue is what we would recommend that they use based on the size of the property. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's not quite on track. So when people come to me and they say, our landscape budget's out of control, what do we do? Step one, we need to figure out where it should be. Because if we don't know where it should be, we're all just guessing. And it's not the same as it is in Wisconsin. And it's hard to figure that out unless you get this information, in which case it's a little bit easier. It gets you closer. If you have absolutely no idea, this gets you closer. We do have options for folks that do overseed and then not overseed, which of course we encourage you not to, but if you do, we still have a budget for you. Again, this is an opportunity to work with your landscaper as a team. This is where you talk to them, you work with them, and it's, who sees the bills? I don't know who sees the bills at your HOA. It could be the property manager, could be the board, it's probably not the landscaper though, so they might not be aware. There are some tools that might be coming up where they would be aware, but at the moment they might not be. So you'll see on the right, the sample landscape contract language. It's pretty general, but I wanted you guys to see that. Again, that's on the website. The idea is that if your landscaper doesn't know that they're supposed to be in charge of a certain amount of water or understanding the water management, if it's not in the contract, I mean, that's kind of a contract problem, right? Or if it says, oh, you're supposed to shear the shrubs once a week, but everybody doesn't like that. Well, if it's in the contract, they're going to do it. So it's something to think about when you are upping your contracts. You need to be very clear with your communications. That's only fair, and that's just good business, working with your teammate, the landscape company, and the landscapers. This is a huge deal. This is a very big deal. This is where I tell people there are ways where if you're this off track, like this example, if you just start managing the water better, there are ways to just start that for zero cost, for example. Now you're just talking about, hey, the city gave us those guidelines for how often to water. Why are we watering 3 times a day when we're not overseeding? Or why are we watering every day? Let's talk about that and make sure that we're on the same page. This is a tool to get you on the same page. This is a big one, right? This is kind of I hope we can get here stage. Some of you may have heard, some of our neighboring cities are using a fancier version of what I just showed you. It's still the same idea, but it is more real-time based. We are very much hoping to get funding to do this. We have put in a grant. I was really hopeful that I would be able to tell y'all we got this amazing grant. I don't have that information. Everyone crossed their fingers. But we have our eyes on this program. It's called Waterfluence. Again, a lot of people have heard about this. It's a very specific water budget for your community where it is based. You see the map on the left where it's, hey, how much shrub area or desert, how much turf do we not overseed, those sorts of pieces of information. And then on the right, what you see is uploaded monthly use goes right to that actual budget, sort of like the graph I showed you earlier, but a little different. So keep an eye out if those of you who are on this list, or excuse me, on this call, we have ways to stay in touch with us. We have signups to keep on the loop, and I would love to keep you all in the loop. So if this is something that we get funded, I would love to have people involved in it. I just had a property manager contact me today asking, please, can we get on this? And I hope so, but at the moment we don't have it. But what we do have is that other graph option that I showed you, which is just historical. This is more daily and up to date, but historical is very accurate as well. I know I'm kind of talking fast, so I know I can't say interrupt me because we're not allowed to do that, but I'm giving you all a lot of information. And again, I appreciate your time being here and sharing this information with your board members and your landscape companies. Now, here's something you all wanted to hear about was the landscape incentive programs. What kind of offerings do we have? So I'm going to talk about the things again for commercial customers or HOAs. And again, commercial is a church, a business front, a grocery store, all those sorts of folks, as well as HOAs. So it's not just for HOAs, but that's our audience tonight as a general rule. But this example happens to be a church that took advantage of our program. So we have two kinds of programs. I'm going to get into the details, but you see this number of $12,500. There's details about that, and I'm going to explain them to you, but that is a maximum in one 12-month period. So I wanted to just kind of give you a heads up. We definitely have programs, and we're going to talk about them. The one that you might be wondering about, or maybe you've heard about it, is a grass removal program. This is an actual HOA that did take advantage. They decided, you know what, we've got these areas. Nobody's walking in that area. Nobody's running their dogs. Absolutely no kids are playing in this area. Let's see if we can get rid of that and start saving some money, saving some water, adding color, adding interest, and generally updating the look. If you look at this, and again, this is my opinion, but you're going from 80s to today. So that's another option to even look at it that way. So there's so many reasons to do it. I understand this is an extremely difficult decision for an HOA board to make. Sometimes you get people that aren't interested, sometimes you do. That's why I always recommend if you're considering removing grass, please start with the non-functional areas first. Those are the areas that nobody's enjoying. The joke is if the only person walking on it is the person pushing a lawnmower, it's not being used. So that would be something to consider. There are some details about that program, of course. There is a minimum of 10,000 square feet of grass. That's about a quarter of an acre, just to give you an estimate. It doesn't all have to be in one chunk. It can be in different sections. We do have a very important requirement of 50% low water use plant canopy coverage. So you can see in the picture, it definitely needs plants. We do not incentivize just straight up rock. We do not incentivize just straight up artificial turf. We are attempting to reduce heat island effect. We want to improve our air quality with the health benefits of plants. We want to create shade. These are very big goals. And it is a very big project for an HOA to take on a program like this. The 10,000 square foot of grass is currently a $5,000 incentive. So going back to that, hey, what about that 12.5? You can do two of these. So if you removed 20,000 square feet of grass, you would be eligible to receive $10,000. I apologize for that. All of these projects are for future projects. If you did it last year, it's too late. It's something you need to get approval for. We definitely talk through it. It's a whole process. There's some exceptions. There's some things. You'll call me, we'll talk. And this is a great opportunity. Like I said, I do understand this is a very difficult decision to come to as an HOA. Not impossible. We've had other people do it. But on that note, I kind of wanted to mention this is the very effective but much simpler option for another incentive program we have, which is for irrigation efficiency. So you can do this and remove grass if you want, or you can do just irrigation efficiency if you want. This is a program where we are trying to incentivize certain pieces of equipment. So I've listed most of them here, and most people have heard of a controller. The smart controllers are the ones that have the sensors and are able to get real-time data and can help you reduce your usage. I did want to tell you guys a story. We had one HOA just, I don't know, a month ago. Within a month, they put in a flow sensor. And if you haven't heard of a flow sensor, that is a piece of equipment that tells the controller, hold on, I'm sensing a flow that's too high. And this flow sensor was put in less than a week later. On a Saturday morning at 5 a.m., it detected a 16 gallon per minute stuck on valve. It shut everything down. Now, I don't know about you. I know there's some very dedicated landscapers out there, but most of them don't want to show up at 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning, So we were thinking that was probably about a 50,000 gallon savings if the landscaper had miraculously been able to get there on a Monday right away. That was within a week of putting the thing in. So it's pretty impressive. There's many options here. We mostly do a 50% cost coverage. We also have, I didn't list it on here, installation costs can be partially covered for the smart controller as well as the flow sensor. So these are options. These are not hard decisions generally to come to as an HOA board. These are a little simpler. And you'll have to kind of weigh your options and look into things, talk with your landscaper, get estimates, all those good things. These are the quicker decisions. Again, these are not retroactive. You have to get approval first in order to qualify for these programs. Okay, and I promised I would talk a little bit about the homeowners, because again, most of you are homeowners. If you're in a single family home, I understand if you're in a condo, it's a little different. But for single family homeowners, I just wanted to point out we do also offer a grass removal program. We call it Grass to Xeriscape, just like we call the other one, where we do ask you to remove at least 500 square feet because it's a home, not a large property. And we have two steps. It's either 500 and 999 square feet or 1,000 square feet and above. Again, you get a pre-approval. The grass has to be alive. And again, you still have to put in the 50% coverage. I wanted to show this example of a particular home that started. And then, right afterwards, just like if you were to do a conversion at your HOA, the little baby plants look, well, they're baby plants, that's how they look. But you just give them time and voila, they turn into this gorgeous, shady, colorful option. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. Again, if you want to promote this to your people, that would be amazing. We love that. And you'll notice it says up to 1,100. The first smaller amount, the 500 and 999 is $750. 1,000 square feet or more is $1,000. Where'd that extra $100 come in? Hey, it's here. The Trees Are Cool program, where we did really want to push trees. We really want people to plant trees. So those people who are participating specifically in a grass removal program can get up to an additional $100, $50 for one tree, $100 for two trees. And we just really want to promote that. We want to get that shade. So I just wanted to let you guys know about that. Make sure that you are aware of that. Before I forget, I did want to say one thing about the other programs, and I don't know how to go backwards on this, so we're just going to talk. I just wanted to make sure with the incentives, again, talk with your property manager, talk with your landscaper. It's a team effort, and I know it's a team effort, and I know things can take a little bit of time, and that's okay. If I can help, call me. Okay. Uh-oh, poll time. Sorry, I'm really shocking. I am shocking people with my poll questions. So here's one, and she's pulling it up. What percentage of a home, single family, home's water is often used outdoors? I'm going to let you guys have a moment. Think it over. Everybody's all over the place. You tell me when you want to end it over there. Get your votes in. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see what we've got. I say end poll. Sorry if you didn't vote. What do we come up with? Woo! Wow! Tight race. Okay. Drum roll, please. The answer is actually up to 70%. So 50% was the answer that would have been the closest. So congrats to those of you who got that. Yeah, can you believe it? That's why I'm sitting here talking to you guys so much about plants and about landscaping, because that's an area that we can really get efficient in. You just, even if you had all sorts of grass at your place, let's water it the right way. Just like those irrigation upgrades we talked about for your common areas. If you want to keep the grass, okay, but tighten up that water use. Use the right amount. Let's not use excessive water if we don't need to. And again, an individual homeowner, Same story. We want you to use your water efficiently. So hopefully the tools that we're providing are able to help you do that. Thank you for participating in the poll. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay, just a couple more things to tell you, and then I'm gonna see where we're at with the Q&A. But this is a screenshot of our website. We've got tons of stuff on this website. I want you guys all to please check it out. There are links you can see on the way it's laid out. There's a big button that says commercial and HOA customers, and that's where you guys are going to head if you want to. But there's tons of other resources. There's that calculator, Know Your H2O. We offer free publications. We have links for so many things online. Hot topics, what's going on? We have a ton of stuff. Top 10 reasons not to overseed. Who can beat that? You could probably come up with more than 10, but we've got 10. All those links for the professional titles for landscapers, all sorts of stuff. It's all there. So we're really hopeful that you can learn what you need to learn from there. The residential grass removal incentive right there. Quick button. So thank you. One more to let you guys know about. Hopefully you've heard, you might have seen it on the opening slide about Water Use It Wisely. That is a regional education program that Mesa actually founded. We're very proud of that, where we have all sorts of information for your HOA, but also for your residents. Talks about rainwater harvesting, landscape plant of the month, some of the stuff about how to choose a landscaper, all sorts of things. There's video series, there's contacts for different cities. So if anybody here is a property manager, you can go there and find all sorts of contact information. Again, I promise you that is in the follow-up email link. Okay, how are we doing on time? Because guess what? It's happening. So this is, again, this is going to be in an email, but this is my contact info. This is our main website. You can get to all sorts of things here. That's, oh, I even put my phone number on there. Oh boy, teasing. So that's my presentation. I'm excited to hear the questions, and I hope you guys have learned some things here.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to help facilitate the questions. We did have a good amount of them that did come in. So please bear with me as we work through these. Some of them might be within the same theme of one another. We'll get through as many as we can. If for some reason we get short on time, we will provide you with that follow-up contact information for Becky, and you're more than welcome to reach out to her directly to discuss some of your questions. So something that was brought up was, how is wastewater calculated?
How is wastewater calculated? Well, that's better answered by customer service, but a general answer is it's in the rate book. There are specific ways with specific rate types. By the way, all rates are approved by City Council, so you can look online for more information about that. But wastewater is basically the water that goes into the system. So if you have a landscape only meter, for example, which hopefully most of you do, there is no wastewater charge associated with it. If you have a domestic or a dual use meter, like say you're a condo and your landscape is not separated, there's a specific way based on your rate type. If you're a single family homeowner, there is a different way. So that's going to be best. You can look in the rate book, or you could call customer service. That's probably a better way to do it. I hope that answered it.
Thank you. And the next one we have, and I think this is a great concern, when it comes to harvesting water, what can we do about mosquitoes?
Oh, okay. So that's a good idea, or a good point. So when we talk a lot about rainwater harvesting, what's really interesting is most people think automatically of those cisterns and those containers, but there's definitely lots of easier ways to do it, which I didn't know about until, I don't know, 10 years ago. But if anyone's heard of swales or just contouring, so you can create these, for lack of a better word, indents in your landscape where you can collect the rainwater near the plants, and then it'll soak into the ground. Now, if generally it's not going to be flooding, the idea is that you create these swales, and there's ways to do that. So definitely check out our resources on rainwater harvesting. And I mean, I think we've gotten the least rain, I don't know, in a year this year. So I'd be happy to take problems of more water, but you shouldn't have the problem with mosquitoes, because I'm talking on a cistern, that's very specific, and there's different ways to go about doing that. It's more about creating it within your landscape, collecting maybe from the rain, the gutters, those sorts of things. We have some examples. Check that all out on that Water Use It Wisely site. I would start there.
Very good. And somebody had commented asking if this was being recorded for the areas that they missed. And yes, this is being recorded and it will be shared with you in the follow-up. Somebody did touch a little bit more on rain harvesting, referencing that the HOA is already doing the landscaping. And how is it that they can help with their rain harvesting on their own, even though that the developer and the HOA have already done that?
So if they've done it for maybe the common areas and you're looking to do it at your own home, I don't know if that's quite the question, but if it is, then again, I would consider contouring the landscape. There's even certain companies that do know how to specialize in that. But you kind of have to think about where the rain falls at your home, and rather than having it go off into the street, you can keep it where you have especially trees, because trees are going to need, a nice wide amount of water on their canopy edge. So it's more about keeping the water on your property and using it wisely on specific plants.
Thank you. One of our first questions that came in was referencing a comment you had made about the 344,000 gallons. Is that just in one time during the grass establishment, or is that over the entire year?
That is, so it's over the overseeding season, which is pretty much, as you guys have seen around town, now-ish until April-ish. So that's above and beyond what you're using in the summer. So your summer is using a certain amount, plus if you decide to overseed, you're using this much more. And that's what that 344,000 was for 1 acre in that season of additional water needed to overseed, to not just maintain the Bermuda, but to create that winter lawn.
That makes sense. Thank you. And does the water budget calculator take into account water usage from overseeding?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
The next question we have was, how does the city know what our HOA community is made up of? Desert, desertscape, grass, etc.
So we don't necessarily. So there's a couple things. So in the graph with the red and the blue, that was where it's either self-reported and you can talk to your landscaper, or there are some instances where I can help you look at the map and we can measure based on what an aerial photo shows us. Is it perfect? No, but it sure gets us a lot closer. And so I generally start with saying, talk to your landscaper, see if they'll give you an estimate. Do you have 2 acres of grass and 4 acres of desert? Maybe. Don't forget the areas around the perimeter. I mean, it adds up quickly. So I don't have that answer right now. Like, I can't just say, oh, I went to your HOA and I know how much square footage you have. I just don't. But there are ways to use aerial maps. Now, that second one that I was showing that had the special map and the special real-time data, that's a service that uses, I think it's Google Earth, and they map it specifically. And then, like in the other cities, you're able to look at your map and say, hey, actually, that area is not quite right. It's this. So it's not a set in stone thing. It's an interactive option.
Okay, that makes sense. We have an individual that has 70 plus accounts for their HOA, and they find it to be very time consuming trying to download all the data for the usage of those accounts. Is there any way to do a request for the city to provide them all that information in one go, or how would they?
Yeah, so that's, again, another question for customer service. Unfortunately, I'm not the billing person, but those are the experts, and they are the ones who can help you if you do want to talk about those services, because I know there are some that do have a lot of individual meters. I would start with customer service, and if I remember, we'll put that in the link. I know the number by heart, but well, I can say it right now if you want. I can give you the phone number. It's 480-644-2221, and they are very, very helpful.
Very good. Thank you. We have an individual that has a townhouse community, and they don't have separate meters for landscaping or their residents. So
Yep.
how would you provide some guidance with that?
Excellent question. I'm so glad someone asked that. Thank you for bringing it up. So unfortunately, what we have to do is some estimates. We can do some estimating based on the age of the property, and we can say, what percentage occupancy do you have? We're going to have to assume 2 people, 2.5 people per home, and we have to do some of that. Or maybe some folks know the exact number of people in their community, but that's great. And then we'll say, based on the age of the place, I think you should use about, you guys ready for this? It's an indoor usage can be anywhere from 50 to 70 gallons per person per day. So we would use those estimates, we would do the math, and we would say, all right, anything above this is landscaping. It's an assumption. It's not perfect, but it's a start. It's to get you in the right direction. That's what we would do.
Very good. Can you go a little bit deeper as to why there's no use during September through December?
On that example?
On any, that was just a statement on why is there no use September through December?
I think maybe my example didn't show usage. I just was picking a timeline. So I think that's probably why that was. It was just an example. So, yeah.
Easy enough. And is it true that removing grass, vegetation, and trees leads to an increase in urban temperatures?
So yes, that is exactly why with our incentive, we do not allow any just straight up rock. So grass, people talk about grass being cooling, and it is in the sense that an evaporative cooler is cooling. You add water and it evaporates. You're adding a lot of water to grass and it's evaporating. If it's July, I would prefer to stand under a tree than in an open field with grass that hasn't been just watered, because all that's happening is it's evaporating the water. So yes, thank you. We definitely do not promote rock straight up. We do have that 50% vegetation requirement because we are trying to help mitigate heat. We're trying to reduce the temperature. We definitely don't want to make things hotter here. We don't need that. So good point.
True. Regarding the rebates, is that something that the landscaper or the HOA would be submitting?
Perfect. The HOA. So it says on the actual application that it must be signed by the board president. Generally, what I do is I go in and I verify with the Arizona Corporation Commission webpage who the board president is, and they are the authorized representative to sign. I would encourage the landscaper to work with the board and then have the president be involved and sign the application and submit it.
Okay.
Great question.
And do you know of any current discount programs available locally for gravel or rock companies? The reference was that rock has doubled more in cost the last few years.
It's not cheap. You are absolutely right. I do not know of a discount program. I do know, and it's not for HOAs, but for homeowners, SRP has that tree program where you can get 2 free trees. And again, if a homeowner in your association uses that and they decide, hey, I'm going to be part of the grass removal and I want to get money for trees are cool, even if they paid $0 for those trees and they are removing grass and they want to apply, they can still get the additional up to $100, even if they're using free trees from SRP, because we just want to have more trees and we want to encourage that planting.
Yes.
But yes, it is true that is a very expensive, it's an expensive process. It just is.
I have a kind of a 2-part question.
Okay.
This individual has stated that they have had resistance in replacing grass with gravel and plants due to dog owners wanting to have pet-friendly areas. Do you have any recommendations for low water use ground coverings that would be pet-friendly? And also, do you foresee any potential for replacing grass becoming mandatory in the future?
Okay, great questions. And it's funny that you ask that about the dog thing, because I have said to all of our partners at Water Use It Wisely, we really need to do a specific blog on dog-friendly materials. At this moment in time, we kind of recommend, if you don't want to have grass for the dog, we recommend a 1/4 inch minus, which is that really tiny gravel so it doesn't bother their paws. And then there's a few different options. The tough part is if it's a ground cover and a dog's running, like big old dogs get real excited and they run on it, they're going to tear it up. So that's why we just talk about the gravel, and then of course you could have plants. But stay tuned because that's something I'd like to get a little more information on. And now I'm forgetting the second part.
If you saw potential for replacing grass becoming mandatory.
Oh, so not at this time. And the plan talks about potentially not being able to water grass, and I'm talking in stage 4 when it's very intense. Right now, no. There might be some things about watering times, restrictions on times that we're not anywhere near that. But we have to plan, we have to be prepared, and just in case scenarios. So no, I do not see that. And I've had questions, not in this particular forum, but where they say, are we going to have to take out all of our trees? Absolutely not, because somebody just pointed out trees cool things off, and we don't want to have no vegetation. That just wouldn't make any sense. But we want to have efficient, low water use, appropriate vegetation for the area. But no, I don't see anything at this time that says, yep, you can't have grass. I don't see that. Like I said, we have asked for, not overseeding. So that's an option too, to help kind of look at your water use and say, hey, we really like having grass sometimes, but maybe since we're using so much water in the summer, maybe if we kick off and we don't use that grass the water in the winter, maybe we could have our water budget closer to where we want it to be.
Okay, thank you. I have 2 comments here. Someone's wanting to share this recording with their HOA meeting. That's totally fine. This will be available to you to share. And also the incentive programs, you can apply for those based on the follow-up links that we send you later this week. Do we have time for one more question, Tanya?
I am here. Well, one more question, yes. And then please know that I have I made notes of all the questions. We will be sure to follow up in the best possible way. But yes, one more to go. Thank you.
Okay. This person was inquiring if it would make more sense planting grass in the summer when it's hot, and then to plant grass in the winter when it's cooler and people are outside to enjoy it more.
So yeah, that's an interesting point too. So I guess I'm guessing the idea is, hey, what if we just did a winter grass and didn't really take care of our summer grass? Again, there's ways to think about things. If you consider a water budget, which again, I know I say budget and people think dollars, I'm thinking in gallons. If you say, you know what, I'm just going to make something up. We only want to use 100,000 gallons in a year. We'd really like it to be in the winter. Then we're going to keep our grass in the summer not looking so hot. You can do that. You just have to be careful that you don't underwater it so much that it's just dirt, because obviously no one's going to be happy with that. Plus, it's terrible for the air. So you can kind of play with things a little. You can look at I even saw communities spray their grass so it was green. So my point is, it's not all or nothing. Maybe you have a specific area you want to overseed, but do you really need to do that other area on the side that nobody goes to? Maybe not. So if you are looking at things holistically, look at the whole year, look at your entire water use, look at the areas people use. Everything doesn't have to be all or nothing. There's definitely ways to work in between.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate you answering everything.
Thank you all for being here this webinar. Thank you, Becky and Alicia and Cynthia. This is a team effort, and thank you so much for making it possible.
So thank you so much, everyone. These are fantastic questions. We appreciate your interest and your ability and your wanting to save water, and I can't ask for more than that. Thank you so much.